Welcome to the show. It's simply divine. Talking faith and food, where we intertwine with Farah. It's simply divine. It's simply divine.
Hey guys, welcome to Simply Divine, the show where we talk to all of your favorite Christian and gospel music artists and find out what makes them who they are. So today's episode is obviously a little bit different. Kitchen's slightly different. I am here by myself, but I didn't want to leave you guys without content. So I said, you know what? I'm still going to shoot something for you. We're still going to chat. We're still going to have a great time. So a few weeks ago, I was all set to film the last couple of episodes for this season. I was super ready, had my artists all lined up, had some amazing artists coming on with you guys. And then I got the news that my grandmother passed away very suddenly back home in Zimbabwe. And a lot happened in a very short space amount of time. I ended up flying to Zimbabwe actually with my brother for the funeral. We got to be with my dad and my aunties and all the family, and it was a whole thing. And yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. It's been quite tough, kind of coming to peace with everything. But I thought, what better way to honor my grandmother than to bring her here on the show and tell you guys a little bit about Gogo Manangazira. So I was going back and forth for a while about what I could cook, whether I go down the full Zimbabwean route, whether I pull up some of her, old school recipes. But in the end, I've just decided to cook something that I really do associate with her, which is just a very simple rice and chicken stew. And it's something that you guys can make at home as well if you're looking for a nice little quick Sunday dish to cook. So the reason I associate this dish with my grandma, when I was about 7 or 8, me and my younger brother actually moved back to Zimbabwe to live with my grandparents. And we were there for about a year. But whilst we were out there, we were staying with my grandparents. And it was really nice. It was a really great time. Living in Zimbabwe, we were going to boarding school, we were kind of getting a bit more in touch with our culture, and just having a great time actually. I think being a kid in Zim, it was a really fun time. And I remember one of the first Saturdays that we were there, we went to church, and it was a really great Sabbath, and I think we were supposed to go to a friend's house, or it might have been potluck, or there was some kind of event we were supposed to go to after church. And for whatever reason, that didn't end up happening, and we ended up going straight home. So usually the Friday night before we go to church, my grandma will usually cook up quite a big dish, because usually we'd either be hosting or we'd have people over or whatever else. But where we hadn't been planning on eating at home, she hadn't actually cooked anything huge, and all we had in the house was some rice and some chicken stew that we'd had the night before. So it was just my grandparents, me and my brother in the house, and we ended up just eating that stew. We ate it cold because I think me and my brother were just being really bratty kids, and we couldn't be bothered to wait for them to heat up the food. And I just remember us sitting watching TV. We were watching one of the Gaither, Bill and Gloria Gaither homecoming videos. I just remember sitting there watching that video, and we were just singing together, and we just had a very impromptu worship session, and it was just a really, really, really good day. And that's been a memory that sat with me, well, clearly my entire life. So here we are. I am going to recreate it. The food is going to be hot this time, because I'm not going to sit down and wait for it to get cold because I'm hungry. But that's where we are. So I thought I would bring a little bit of home to you guys. So who was Gogo Manangazira? Well, she was a lot of things. She was a mother of 7 and a grandmother to 14. She was an active church participant. She was very skilled both in gardening and in just making stuff from scratch. Her number one gift for all of us anytime we came home, she would never let us leave without her making us some peanut butter, which was very generous of her. And the week before she passed, we'd actually been discussing her Christmas list. She did have a couple of requests on there, including a brand new extra fluffy blanket, and she wanted the really fluffy socks because I showed her the ones I have. They're like Yoda ones, and she got very jealous and she wanted her own pair. But she was the loudest person in the room. She was always the first to start dancing. She had a lot of energy. She was my favourite gossip partner. Anytime I was at home, it would just be me and her. We'd be sharing a room and we'd be up literally until like 1 a.m. just chatting absolute rubbish. That's who she was. She was an avid prayer warrior. She was active in the community, did a lot of charity work, and she was just a really cool person. And she raised really cool people who raised even cooler people. So really and truly, shout out to her. And yeah, that was my grandmother. So I'm gonna disappear a while. I have some chicken to cook, some rice to cook, but we'll be right back. So I'm not gonna lie, I have been trying to recreate this recipe for years. Today was not that day. It does not look the same, it does not taste the same, but it still tastes good. And more importantly, I've made this in memory of my grandma, and I know she would have definitely loved and enjoyed the entire cooking process. She would have been laughing at me non-stop. She would have found this completely hilarious. And we definitely would have eaten this together and had a great time. And I'm just glad that I got the opportunity to make this. Honestly, this episode was just to let you guys know that there may be a bit of a wait until the next episode, but we are still here. We do still love you. We're just working out a couple of logistics. But thank you so much for joining me today and just being a part of this little bit of memorial for my grandmother. For anyone who might be struggling with anything right now, who may have lost somebody, or who just needs to hear a couple of words from Jesus, may I leave you with his final words to the disciples in Matthew 28, verse 20. Lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I pray that you have a very blessed day.